Hi, so in this video, I'm going to try and kind of give you an idea of how to deal with DD5 on IXL, which you guys are going to be doing on the 4th. I'm also going to be looking at graphing some absolute value inequality. So let's get right down to it. When you look at one of these absolute value graphs, obviously it's going to look like a V. We can see a vertex here that looks like it's a 0, 6, which of course has been shifted up 6. Real quick, I'll show you what your original parent graph looks like. And that would be this, y equals absolute value of x, where the vertex is right at 0, 0. But if you look back at the problem we were dealing with over here on IXL, we're up 6 from that. So when you think about what you want to look for, this is your general absolute value format. So a vertical shift, an up shift like this, would have to do with the K value. Okay, that's the one that's out here on the outside. So it's going to be plus 6 on this one because it is up 6. So remember that anything that's up is going to be outside of the bars. And if I'm putting this thing in, I'm just going to put that it's equal to absolute value of x, and it's not multiplied by anything because I got a normal up 1 over 1, hit the corners kind of slope. It hasn't been shifted sideways, so I'm not going to change anything in here in the bars. No plus or minus in the bars because it's not shifted sideways. It's only shifted up, and so that's going to be a plus 6 on the outside. I'll give you one more of these. This one, of course, is a shift down. Still just a slope of 1. So this is very similar to the last one. Still just a regular x here, but now a minus 9 because I've been shifted down 9. Now I'm shifted up again, plus 5. Waiting for him to send me sideways a little bit so I can see what's going on. There it is. Okay, so this one we've shifted sideways. And here's where it can get a little bit tricky. If you go to the right by 5, that's actually going to be a minus 5 in the bar. So when you start shifting sideways, that's going to happen in the bars, inside of the absolute value. And it's a little backwards from what you would normally expect. To the right is actually a minus. To the left would be a plus. So that's something to look out for. Still that same normal up 1 over 1 kind of slope where you hit the corners of all the boxes. So there's no multiplying on the outside or anything like that. And there's no vertical shift here. We're right on the x-axis. All right, this should give you a decent idea of what's going on here. Just remember, when you're looking at your rules, the key things to look for. If you have addition or subtraction like the K on the outside, that's an up-down shift and it works the way you would think. Plus for up, down for minus. If you have addition or subtraction in the bars, okay, that's going to be a sideways shift, and that's the one that's a little backwards. A minus sends you to the right and a plus sends you to the left. If you have a graph that looks very steep and narrow, it's probably an A value out on the outside. Okay, and you can look for your slope that's going to tell you what that A value would be. It could also be a very wide graph if you've got a fraction out there. All right, the other one I wanted to show you guys so that you'll have something to go on as you practice today is going to be graphing the absolute value inequalities. This is actually under Algebra 2. So you'll have to get out of Algebra 1, come in here to Algebra 2, and it's going to be this one. Graph absolute value inequality C.9. So for this inequality, we want to do y is less than the absolute value of x, and I'm going to come to Desmos to kind of give you an idea of what that ought to look like. I start with y equals absolute value of x, which is nice and simple. It hits the corner of the boxes, 1, 1, and 2, 2, has a vertex right at 0, 0. If I change that equal to a less than, this is what happens. Because it's a less than rather than a less than or equal, it's a dotted line. And because it's less than, it shades below. Remember, lesser values live down lower. All those L's kind of go together. So lesser, lower down, shade below. And when I come back to IXL, that's all I've got to do is just set this thing up. It's going to have me select the vertex, put another point on there. And remember, if you need to, you can use your graphing calculator and go look at the table to get an idea of specific points that ought to be on your graph. And then you're going to shade below. If you are using the graphing calculator, I can show you that real quick. We're just going to pull it up, and remember that the absolute value bars happen, they exist in the math menu. So you clear everything out, go over to number, absolute value bar, X. And this one's really simple. I have to turn my stat plot off in order for mine to work, and I also have to go to Zoom 6. But you'll see there's my graph, and if I wanted to, I could go to my table and go find some specific points that ought to be on there that would help me. But I don't need a lot of help with y equals absolute value of x. Just make sure you remember it's under the math menu, numbers. Click to the right, and you'll see ABS is that very first one. So that's not too tough to find. I'll do one more of these, and then hopefully you should be kind of good to go. This one's got a transformation. We're up 2, so we put our vertex there, normal slope. It's an greater than or equal. So we're going to keep it as a solid line, but we're going to shade above. And we should be good there. All right, now less than or equal, and we're at +3 on the outside, so that's a vertical shift. So I shade that in. Okay, here's when we have a slope. This makes it just a tiny bit trickier. Vertex is 0, 0, because there's nothing getting added inside or outside. But instead of going up 1 over 1, I'm going to go up 2 over 1. That's what that 2 on the outside is going to do. It's going to change my slope. Greater than or equal, so I see the line, I want to graph the line, but I need greater than, which is above. All right, here's a 1/2 x. I mentioned this earlier. If you get a fraction, it makes it wide. Here's how that would look. Slope's just going to be up 1 over 2 now. Like I said, it makes it look a little wider. Greater than will be above, and it's a solid line for greater than or equal. Okay, here's a shift sideways, and this will be good after I do this one. Less than x minus 4. We want a dotted line for less than. We want to shade below. Do one more real quick. I'm hoping it'll give me one that gives you a negative where it flips upside down, but if it doesn't, I'm not sure it's a problem. You guys can probably figure it out. So feel free to double check any of these, rewatch this video, pause it if you need to. Here I'm shifting up 6. Notice this negative inside the bars. It isn't going to make any difference. You can graph it on your calculator if you want to confirm that, but it just doesn't end up making any difference when you have a negative in the bar because everything turns positive on the way out of the bar anyway. So greater than or equal means shade up here. Two-fifths x plus 1. They just do not want to give me one of these negatives where it flips upside down. So I used a 2/5 slope there, and because it's greater than or equal, I'll shade above. Another negative on the inside that won't matter. Let's make it a dotted line. Graphic greater than. Finally, a negative. So I shift 5 to the right. Always find your vertex first. Then I'm going to have a slope of 2, but it's flipped upside down and negative. So we're going to go down 2 over 1 and get an upside down. Whoops, clicked the wrong spot. Upside down v. So it's less than, so let's make it just like that. A dotted line and shaded below. Very nice. So you can see it really didn't take me too long. I'm already up to 72. If you take longer, that's fine. You take your calculator out and you get all the help you need. You can take your time. You can work with a partner if you want. You can raise your hand and ask for help if you need it. So get whatever help you need. I'll leave you with this last one. It's a shift of 1 to the left. Negative, so it's upside down, and the slope's 3 over 2. So we're going to go down 3, and then you can actually go 2 to either side since it's a V. This would be a dotted line and a less than. All right.